Greetings. This is my third video building this residence in Revit. I just wanted to quickly point out that there were two videos that came before it. They're both here on YouTube. One is called the Residence 1 Revit Intro, where I discuss the house, discuss the CAD plans. And then there's a second detailed video on inserting the CAD files into Revit, breaking out the various floor plans on the different levels in Revit and the importance of the precision of doing that. Now I'm going to move into the third video and actually begin putting in the floors and fine-tuning the exterior walls. Okay, now we're looking at Revit, and I wanted to give a quick look ahead to show you where I ended up at the end of this video, so you could kind of have a better sense as you're following along. It's a tricky house, and if you're not really familiar with it, I know it can be kind of confusing to just watch along. So here's that front entryway, the third floor set back. These are large gutters, essentially. Again, this is the mansard roof, comes down, and then it has these large, about 16, 18-inch deep gutters that are kind of built into the flat roof that runs all the way around. So you could really just kind of walk around that flat roof. Up the second floor, flat roof, and then the third floor is set back. We can see the third floor stairs peeking in there. Okay, so this is where I'll end up. Always, I think I start this with a building section. Let's just take a quick look at that. There it is. So here we are, first floor. Landings. So again, I mentioned in an earlier video that I didn't have all the numbers correct just yet, and I would be fine-tuning some of this as I go. So I don't always put elevations in just for stair landings, but because the stairs are so, I might just like kind of bounce a landing off of, an offset from the second floor. I don't try to add more elevations than necessary, but being that this is tricky and the stairs are obviously such an important part to this, I wanted to create a landing and or give the landing its own elevation. So we have first floor up to that landing, and then we turn back and move in this direction. This is the proper second floor, and then we're up to the third floor. Stairs down to the basement, and here's the PDF. Let's just move that over a little bit, and you can kind of see both next to each other. There we go. So they're starting to resemble each other. This is actually not drawn correctly. This has a crawl space there. This has a crawl space, so that's actually incorrect here. The rest is correct. And here, this might be oversimplified, how the roof and the floor are kind of one there. So that's still obviously getting worked out at this point there. But otherwise, I think the levels are pretty good. The crawl spaces are good. Okay, so let's put Revit away and take a look at the sped up video. So that's what this is. I've already built this, obviously. So what we're going to take a look at in fast forward motion is the building of this, and I'll just make some comments over it as we go. Okay, so here we are. This is where we left off in the previous video. So let us get this moving. So drawing a section. So I just had those exterior walls set, and now drawing a section to look through. Always aim for the staircases, typically renaming the levels, and they are renaming the floor plans as they go. Beginning to build floors. So I just work with generic floors and walls to start. So I just created a 4-inch floor, and now I am going down to the basement. And I don't have a basement floor plan, but I know where the basement lives relative to those first floor walls. And that's what I just traced out there. So I drew it on the first floor, but I sent it down to the basement, and there it is. We could see it in section there. So there it is. That's the basement floor. And jumping into my section, I could see it down there. Now I am drawing the crawl spaces, and I do have a basement floor level, of course. I don't have the CAD plan for it because I really didn't need it. I had the walls, and then here comes the crawl space, and I set it relative to the basement floor, I believe 8 feet above that floor. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm not creating new levels for these crawl spaces. And now I'm going to pause this for a moment just to explain. So I set the basement floor first, the crawl space second, and now in that corner of this crawl space, I'm going to go in, and I had set all the walls, the exterior walls initially all the way down to the basement, but a crawl space floor would not reach the basement. When they built that addition, they would just build certain walls obviously down to the crawl space. So I am bringing the walls that I initially sent down to the basement up to this crawl space level just for that area that surrounds it. Okay. Some of them were standalone walls that were only at that location, but this wall in particular belongs to both the basement and the crawl space. So what I'm going to do is, right now it's a big blue rectangle, so I'm going to edit the profile of the wall and turn it into an L-shaped. Basically take this chunk out. This will make more sense. See, there we go. That's a good view right there. Okay, so here's that entryway. This wall, for instance, makes its way all the way down to the basement. This blue wall makes its way down to the basement at this location, but here's the crawl space. So I want to take out this lower right-hand portion right there. Okay. So that's why I go to that elevation. So I'm looking at it nice and square on. I don't edit the profile of a wall in 3 dimensions. I like to look at it straight on. So I make sure my elevation cameras are set properly. And then I'm in edit profile of the wall, and I'm taking those wall lines, pushing them back, adding 2 new ones, and now my rectangle became an L-shaped, and I cut out that corner. That's that same wall. Because these walls go from the basement all the way up to the top floor. I don't build wall on top of wall on top of wall. It's one continuous wall. So I have to change so now I'm adding, let me just pause this again. So I've repaired that wall, and now I just have to add 1, 2, 3. These are crawl space walls down in the basement floor. Okay, that's where they're going. But these are short walls. Again, this will make more sense when we see the model. So there we go. That's those walls right there. That wall and that wall. They don't go all the way up to the first floor. They go to the bottom of the crawl space only. So I just measured from the first floor to the crawl space, and now I'm changing the offset. The top of that wall was set. Just pause that 1 second. Hold on, I don't see a good place to stop it. So that wall was set to go to the first floor, but then I just did top offset minus whatever that dimension was, probably 2 feet or so. So now we're doing the same at the back of the house. Again, another crawl space in the back, so I have to bring these up. So I think it's 2 feet below the first floor. That back area is what we're discussing, the crawl space. So the bottom offset. Okay, so that's how I did that. Let me just pause that 1 second. So the rear walls, there's no reason for there to be wall out here. So this wall has to come up to the bottom of the crawl space, and what I'm doing there is changing the base constraint from the basement, and I'm saying a base offset of whatever that number is. I think perhaps 8 or 6 feet. I forget what exactly. Let's keep moving so that I just punch that number in, and now on this wall I have to do the same thing that I did on the other side. I have to take out that lower right hand portion. So I'm pushing those existing lines after doing the edit profile, adding 2 more lines, and now I've changed the profile and I've cut out the basement walls at the back. So and now I'm adding that new basement wall at the rear, and that's what we see right there. And now I'm adding now I just added the slab at the crawl space. That's the basement. And I'm just adjusting where the slab goes exactly. There we go. So the basement, and then the 2 crawl spaces, and then those exterior walls that initially I drew down to the bottom. I drew all the exterior walls down to the basement. I oversimplified when I drew it initially, and now I'm going back and fine-tuning and bringing those walls in and creating those crawl spaces. One crawl space is deeper than the other, so I'm dropping this one and the walls around it. Now we are going back and putting in floors. Now I am on the first floor. This is so I'm inside the walls, placing the first floor. The first floor is one nice continuous level. It says that, I'm just going to stop for a second. So here comes the first floor right there. And it's unlike the second floor. When we get up here to the landings and the stairs, it starts getting more complicated, but this is one nice continuous easy floor. And then the one box that popped up there at the end, it said, do you want to attach your walls to the floor? I always say no. I'm not sure why when you do that, but it always seems to cause complications. I set my walls where I want them, so whenever you place a floor, it's going to say, do you want to attach the walls to that floor? I don't do that. My walls are set to the levels. I always say no to that question. Adjusting exterior walls to my lower crawl space. And now I am, just pause, there we go. So I went back into my floor. Now I'm in my first floor, and I went into edit the floor. Okay, and that's once we do that, once we edit that floor, then the floor shows up again, and then I'm cutting out this hole. So I usually when I draw something, I do the simple version first, and then I have to come back and fine tune it. So now I'm cutting out the area for the stairs. That's what's happening next. Again, no, do not connect walls to my floors. And there's my stair opening. Again, as I mentioned, this house is 1902, so a lot of these stairs are not code compliant. So you'll see that there's quite a bit of fine-tuning I have to do within the staircases. Actually, I have to kind of get into the so here I am. I think I'm discussing the tread depth. Typically we like an 11-inch tread depth, but in this old house that is definitely not the case. 11-inch tread depth, you can see, is pushing that staircase out way too long. So I have to so it's the correct height, but it's way too long. That is not how it is. It's an old yeah, more like that. Pretty treacherous. Would not meet code. Fine-tuning it to make sure that its width is correct and that it fits within the opening. Hiding plans in 3D. Now I'm adjusting the view range. So I'm in the third floor plan, and I was not seeing what I wanted to see. So I was adjusting the view depth. I believe I was looking for the walls below. I couldn't see those second floor walls. I think that's what I wanted to see. A lot of Revit is just that, is hiding things so that we don't create too much clutter in our views, but also we need to pull information from one floor plan to the next often. Trying to shrink the width of the stairs, and I'm getting warnings. So I go into the edit type and I have to make an adjustment. So like many Revit components, they come with behind the scenes kind of restrictions, and it must have been set to, it has to be at least 3 feet wide, which is again code compliant, but again, this old house is not code compliant. So sometimes you have to go into the background and make adjustments in Revit. So now I'm looking at that switchback in the staircase. We go up to the landing and then we switch back and turn to the second. And this is where I decided to create the next level for the landing. And these elevations I put in were not needed to be adjusted. They needed to be adjusted as I went. So I'm kind of doing the math in my mind right now, but things needed to be adjusted as I went. So a little later in the video we'll see that. So now we are on the second floor. We're moving from the second to the third floor, stacked staircases. And I believe at this point I had some of the CAD links were breaking on me for some reason, so I just had to go back and fix them. So here, this staircase, let me just pause for a moment there, good place to stop. So again, this non-code compliant staircase, I had to go in and adjust in the edit type. I had to fix so that I could have less than the ideal 11-inch tread. So then this staircase came in with that same less than ideal depth of tread. So I had to adjust it. This one's code compliant. This is a proper staircase, but the ones going down to the basement were not. So again, behind the scenes, adjusting the parameters in the edit type box. Revit does a lot of work for you, but I wanted to check the math myself and bring out the calculator to confirm my understanding of the staircase situation. So I was just wrestling with this staircase for a little bit at this point. Yeah, and I think actually the staircase was giving me too much trouble, and I think I just erased it and started again at this point. And then sometimes that happens. Sometimes maybe you go down one road to adjust something and it doesn't seem to work. Sometimes it's best just to scrap it and start again. And now creating new generic floors. So now my 4-inch floor was for the basement slab, and now I'm making I believe it was a 12-inch floor for, yes, this landing is coming in, because these floors, with their wood framing, 10 or 12 inches are typically good numbers for residential floors. So that's what I was creating there. And it looks like my first floor is not correct, actually. It looks like my first floor at this point, we could see. Just pause that for a second. My first floor is only 4 inches wide, so that's not correct. This is correct. So I'm not sure in this video if I return to that first floor, but that was something that needs to be corrected. Problem between my height of stairs and my landing. The stairs are too tall or the landing is too short, one or the other, or not at the correct height. I think I went in and I'm closer. Fine-tuning the height of the stairs relative to the levels. This is where I began to get the sense that my floor heights were not where they were supposed to be. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there. Something was, when I translated numbers from my CAD drawing over to Revit, I put them in incorrectly. I missed it by a fair amount. And when putting in stairs, that's a time that any such errors would be quite clear. Just move the building section. So I don't create a lot of sections. They're very super important drawings, but I don't create an excessive number of them. I'll just move a section line around as needed. So I got that stair, that single, there are 2 steps there worked out, and now I am putting in the second floor actually. So I work from top to bottom to top that is, and stairs first, and then once the stairs are in place, I kind of build the floor around it. So close pieces need to be fine-tuned a little bit. And of course, going into the section is where I see where floors and walls do not properly connect with one another. See that problem right there. So checking your work in multiple views, very important. Zooming in, very important. And again, to the view range. So in a floor plan, I was not properly seeing something. So I think it was, yeah, I think I was looking at the CAD file and I couldn't see the walls for some reason. So that's why I think when I adjusted that view depth, or I believe that was kind of the issue. Then I saw the Revit walls. I'm not sure why I didn't see them at that point, but did cause a problem bringing the third floor down to a reasonable elevation. And again, all my walls are tied to those levels, so as I continue with this project, I imagine they'll be fine-tuned as they go. Drawing stairs in 2 dimensions it's easy typically, and it doesn't reveal problems as quickly as this does. So when you begin building the model in 3 dimensions, then inconsistencies and problems will kind of show themselves. So I do expect as I move forward with this, I will be refining heights and making adjustments. So there we can see the 2nd floor staircase poking up. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, so now we could see. So 1st floor up to that landing. So there are openings, things need to be resolved. I'm not tackling everything at the same time. And then 2 steps up, and then we're on the 2nd floor here. Adjusting the location of the landing, and now I need to, I believe I'm putting in, yes, the next, the floor in the rear part. So due to all those kind of goofy steps at that landing area, there's yet another floor level coming in there. So top of 3rd floor walls. So I'm creating a new set of walls just for the 3rd floor. They're again, those are the mansard. This is under the mansard roof, which is why those walls are drawn so thick. But I wanted to isolate these walls because they're a special type of wall that I'll have to return to later. So, and they don't stack with the others. On the left and the right, they would perhaps stack, but they're kind of a special case. So I isolated them, and I did not isolated them from the walls below them, especially since they're going to end up being those thick mansard. I'm not sure how I'm going to tackle that when I get to it, but at the very least I know I wanted to keep them separate from the others. And now I'm looking at the roof, which it's a flat roof that surrounds this third floor. So this is the flat roof over the second floor, and so I'm at the third floor. That's where it lives. So this is, and now I'm drawing two. Let's just pause it when I get there. We go. Okay, so we are on the third floor, and I'm drawing the roof, the flat roof of the second floor. So here's our third floor, and our second floor roof surrounds it. So I drew the roof, and then I drew another shape within the roof, all in the same drawing, the same draft of the roof, and then it'll just cut that piece right out. And that's where that came in. That's that piece right there. So I have to deal with the overhangs, getting them proper, and even when this video is over, the height of that roof and the height of this floor, I think I got the height of the floor correct, but I wasn't convinced about the height of that roof and how they relate to each other. So that's going to take some further exploration on my part. Fine-tuning where the roof exactly goes. And as I mentioned in the first video, it's a very old house built in several phases over decades, and so things are peculiar. And that's what it looks like there. So the second floor roof coming up around that third floor mansard, and then we could see the staircase coming in. Third floor coming in around the staircase. Roof overhangs I'm going to have to look at. There's the third floor. Moving it out under the walls. Okay, just to quickly summarize, here we are back in Revit. I put the building into wireframe so that we could see more clearly what exactly was done. I know it's tough to follow along when you're not very, very familiar with the building and kind of zoomed into Revit, so it's a little tricky. But I hope it gave you a sense of the procedure of kind of how I started kind of simply with the exterior walls, and then started putting in the floors, starting with the basement, then needed to start carving out and editing the profile of those walls to accommodate this rear crawl space back here, as well as this front crawl space. Then stairs have to get to their levels, adjusting and fine-tuning the heights as I go. Again, old buildings are not necessarily code compliant, so I had to dig into the staircases, edit type, and I had to make some adjustments here where we have maximum risers, maximum depth for treads. So this all comes pretty much code compliant these days, but again, this house is 1902, so I had to come in here and override some of those default settings. And then, dropping in the floor plan, or the floor plates was next. carving out the parts around the staircases, always looking in section. Pretty much after every move that I make, I always jump back into section, making sure that things look properly aligned and that the heights are all working out. Okay, so I hope that helped give a sense as to the procedure. Even if the building is new to you and a little foreign, I hope the procedure of working through this was helpful. Okay, thank you and good luck.